What's up, What the Vet fam? Happy Sunday. Thank you for joining Joyce and I on yet another What the Vet adventure. Today we are talking to somebody who is very important to me. We have a lot of history together, work history, friends, family, and somebody who I rely on quite a bit for good advice when it comes to animals and training and things like that. Guys, this is Leslie Carpenter, former animal control officer / dangerous dog investigator / cruelty investigator. And so what we're going to talk about today is we're going to touch on some subjects in terms of aggressive dogs. And this is literally, again, full disclosure, every episode. This is our thoughts, our opinions, and our experience. This is not meant to tell anybody they're doing anything wrong or give any kind of wrong, unsolicited advice. This is literally just us having a conversation about things that maybe we as pet owners could do better, triggers
Hi,
we can
Leslie.
look for, things like that. So without further ado, take it away, ladies.
So, talk about a bit of your background with aggressive dogs on both professional now and previous profession. Like, do you see a big difference? Like, are people bringing you aggressive dogs to work with at all?
I do. I've had of course, my experiences with aggressive dogs when I worked for animal control. But prior to that, we'll just give a little bit of farther background on that first. I've been in the dog world since I was about 6 years old, so I've been in there for a while. And throughout the years, I've worked with multiple trainers in the area that have showed me all types of dogs with aggression, whether it be fear or true aggression, dominant aggression. But right now, I do see dogs with reactivity. I don't label it as aggression because more than likely it's fear. Everything's fear-based or it's displaced behaviors to where they just need an outlet. So they're just displacing these behaviors that look like aggression on everyday situations, whether it be like a bicycle going by or a stranger knocking at the door and they bust through a window, or um, there's just so many other behaviors that, you can list for that. But I do have dogs that come to me for my training, which I operate Shepherd's Lantern herding. Wow. And I teach herding breeds and herding mixed breeds to work livestock. And it's not just for competition, it's for farm work, but also for pet people for fun or for dogs that actually have aggression issues. When I see them, 9 times out of 10, it's not aggression at all. It's fear that was never helped or caught early enough. And it definitely helps when you train your dogs to do something that bird decide to do. You will see that go away as time goes on.
Okay. Now, when you say fear, aggression, outward aggression, and reactivity, so what's the difference between a reactive dog who, say, like, for example, my dog, when I walk her, it is an absolute nightmare because I don't know if she acts aggressive, but when you say the word reactivity, that makes more sense. Like you said, with the bicycle going by or somebody shutting their car door, like she loses her mind. And she's a rescue. And we got her when she was like 1.5 or 2, hit by 2 cars. Or I'm sorry, a car and a motorcycle. And when she sees a motorcycle, Leslie, she loses her absolute mind. And I feel that if she were to get away from me and get a hold of that person that's on that motorcycle, that she's going to hurt them.
Right. Well, I
But
mean,
I don't
usually
know if
when
she's just
dogs have a
reacting.
traumatic experience, well, it's all primarily fear. I mean,
Yeah.
she's a rescue, and a lot of dogs that I do see are rescues, or they get them later on from a breeder, not usually starting off as puppies. I mean, the other half is puppies that were just never socialized, so they were never shown those scary objects, or they had a really
Mm-hmm.
bad experience that just completely rocked their world in the wrong way, and there was no help to help recover from that one time incident. So when it does get bad, like you're saying now, if she were to get loose, actually bite somebody out of that, it's not really because the dog's aggressive. It's a fear response, making her reactive, which are behaviors like the barking, the lunging, the showing the teeth,
Screaming.
the screaming, all of that stuff will build the arousal. Dogs are predators. Things, and depending on what they are, their breeds do elicit a lot of these responses at different types of intensities. I guess that would be a way to explain it. So it does kind of tell a story of why your dog's acting so bad. So what breed is your dog? Pit bull? Okay, so terrier in there. Okay, hunting breed. They were,
Yeah.
back in the day, they're used a lot for that. So any small little movements, squirrels, lizards, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
bicycles, fast cars, it's all triggering already with the visual, so it's going to activate that hunting drive, that prey drive in the dog. You don't know
Okay.
how to use it, you're going to put it onto something else, and then if something scary happens, then it's going to magnify just out of
Yeah.
context.
It does. It does. It makes a lot of sense. It does because like she's a super sweet dog. She's good with Brixton. She's amazing with Pop Pop. And you know my cat is the devil, and like that's her cat. Like her tribe is her tribe, but other animals outside. I mean, down to squirrels. When you say prey drive, that makes perfect sense because she will lose her mind over a squirrel, a bird, a lizard, and like I've seen her like bark and scream at like lizards because she can't get to them.
Right.
Or so I'm assuming because she can't get to them. You know I'm stuck with behavior. But that makes a lot of sense with the reactivity versus the actual aggression and the way that the mind works.
Yeah, in my career, I've only really seen maybe a handful of dogs. And when I say a handful, 5 dogs that truly meant because they had learned how to be I shouldn't say dominant, but these dogs are very forward, very secure, very confident in making an aggressive decision, which means I'm going to bite you. I don't care what you try to do. I've already made a
Yeah.
decision. I've done it before. And the more times a confident dog gets to do that, that's when it turns into a true form of actual aggression or a medically induced form. So there's
There
also
you
that.
go. Yeah, there's also that too that I think that a lot of people are not aware of.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like there's a behavior issue, but there's also a medical component such as a brain tumor or something like that can go along with that. And
Yes.
I've seen that on my side quite a few times in cats and dogs. And I've seen some things, but now in terms of let's say genetics, right? Is there a possibility or a thought process or research behind that a breed can be predisposed to aggression? Like they're
I say
bred for
yes
that.
to that because
Okay.
I've been in this for over 20 something years now. And for a lot of studies that I actually was able to do while I was an environmental officer, some of the certifications I had to go through did talk about genetics. And there are tests, there's not many, but there are starting to become more of it being genetically proven. And of course, you can go to a dog breeder that's been breeding specific breeds for years, and they can tell you if you don't breed a nice, confident, stable dog up here, it will
Hmm.
genetically pass it down to its offspring.
Yeah.
So it's just been proven too many times through the actual field for me. I've seen it, but they're starting to actually put it on paper now.
Yeah. Now, with those, say those genetically predisposed aggressive dogs, I'm not even going to say just breeds in general, but dogs, is there, with that research, if you can attest or speak to that, is there a way, because I used to say all the time, like, raising a dog is like raising a kid. You can either raise an upstanding idiot, like an upstanding citizen or a total idiot. But, like, if there's a genetic predisposition to that, I've seen some to where you can't get a hold of them in their puppy years to where it's bad. At 6 months old, they've bitten 4 or 5 different people, they've attacked children, this, that, and the other, with proper correction. Does that make sense?
Well,
Where
Yes.
it's just like, no, I don't care. I don't
yeah,
care.
I was gonna say,
Like
I was
they're
like, there's
biting like
also
Stevie
that
Wonder with
golden
a lightsaber,
retriever
you know what I'm
line
saying?
that
But
like they're fine, they're fine, they're fine, and then they just snap and they will go red and they will attack anything and everything in front of them, and then they go
yep.
back to being fine. And that line was continued to be bred for years until they realized it tracked down to singular ones and then responsible breeders.
Yeah.
Right. It's interesting you say that because the very first dog I ever came in contact that was truly a nasty, aggressive, like, I'm going to
Yep.
get you type of a dog was a golden retriever. And it just shocked me because I did during that time frame when I first started in the dog world, that was adorable.
Yep.
That was like golden
Yep.
retrievers are friendly, they're sweet, they should not be like that. But
Yes.
Yeah.
apparently there was a bloodline that was producing that.
Yeah. And
He
thankfully
was
that
apparently
has
from one of
died
those.
out more because they caught on, but it took generations of that line passing it on to figure it out. And then the responsible breeders, because,
Yes.
the golden retrievers came out in tenfold and just the popularity of them. So everybody and anybody was breeding golden retrievers. So it just kept breeding and breeding and breeding. And finally people caught on and was like, cool, we finally put a stop
Right.
to that line. But like I've seen
Yeah.
one of them and they are just nasty. And like one of the worst dogs that
Yeah.
I had come at me
Yeah.
personally in a vet clinic was a boxer, and no one could help me because I had it on a slip lead and it was like this close from my face, jumping up trying to get me. And it was pure, like we hadn't even done anything. We hadn't even done anything, and we were literally just brought him back to start the testing for blood work and x-rays, and he just like would lunge for me and no one could get in to help me. So like I'm like finagling him off to the side and it was just awful.
No, I've worked like one of the most aggressive dogs like you that I've ever worked with was a golden retriever, and his owner was just at her wits end with him. She's like, I don't know what to do. You know what I mean? But like,
Yeah.
what? Say somebody ends up with a predisposed aggressive animal. What would be some kind of tips and tricks that you would kind of shoot their way for them to be able to work with them appropriate, socialize them appropriately, and kind of I don't want to say work them out of it because I don't know if that ever truly leaves, if that makes sense. But how to harness it? Does it? Am I using the right word for that?
Yes.
Kind of. I don't want to say control, but kind of keep it at bay and keep their attention focused in the right direction.
Well, I have to say the first thing is going to sound silly, but it's always a stay calm. Because, when something happens, when your dog's reactive, you know it's reactive. And I'm saying reactive, but, exhibiting aggressive behavior
Yeah.
towards you. I don't like that aggressive word either, but you know what we're speaking on
Yeah.
it, so I'll just say it. But when the dog is showing those, aggressive behaviors towards you and that energy definitely feels negative, stay calm. I know it's easier said than done because that emotion, that energy level, the dog, you release pheromones. Dog knows it. Dog's going to get triggered. It'll happen. So, there's things you can do in the home to put him like in a bedroom or something like that if the dog's that bad, which, I've had to do for animal control when I worked for them. And, but, the second
Yeah.
most is do your research on a good trainer. And I'm not saying a trainer that's been just 2 years PetSmart, nothing against. There's some good PetSmart trainers out there. There's some good trainers coming right out of these new schools and stuff, but truly find somebody that knows what they're doing because they will be able to evaluate the dog appropriately and put them on a really nice plan. But, unfortunately nowadays what sucks is not people want to put the time and dedication into helping those dogs. They think it's just a quick fix
Yeah.
overnight, but
Yeah.
that trainer is really going to be able to help.
Okay.
And then just learning your dog's behavior. You learn to communicate with the dog, and learn to watch and the body languages. They will tell you what's going on. For every dog that does go into a fear response that leads to aggression or unwanted behaviors, something has triggered it, and it's really fast usually. But if you're good at watching and learning your dog, you're going
Right.
to see what's causing that. And sometimes it takes seconds, and that's all it is. You
Yeah.
say, most of the time, I'd hear, I
Yeah.
didn't know, no, we didn't do anything. Nothing happened. Something did. Something changed to cause that response. Dogs are fair when it comes to that. They
Yeah.
will tell you every single time. We just ignore it.
Exactly, exactly. And there's things that we as pet parents or animal professionals can become aware of, especially like working rooms like Joyce, like when we have different
Yep.
patients, to be able to look at this animal and be like, he is about to lose every marble he has. We need to grab a muzzle, or we need to get additional teammates, or maybe talk to the owner about a chill protocol, like triggers on our side that we see. But there's some owners that I've had
Oblivious,
encounters
yeah.
with that they don't see, like we could see it in a room and they're absolutely oblivious to what's happening. Like, what kind of things can an owner look for? Like you said, body language, but what kind of body language are we talking about when you
So
see that shift?
the biggest one for me is when I've seen dogs that come out to me and then, people go very, either people react or dog react because nobody ever wants to say my dog's aggressive, or admit truly that they're fearful, which is really not a big deal. It's good to let people know. But the first thing you're going to see really, and what I've started seeing throughout and all dogs are different. They all react differently to different stimuli, environments, and all that stuff. The mouth closes and the breathing really slows down. The eyes
Right.
will get very big and fixated. They'll get alert and they'll fixate on something. And then usually it's a ripple effect in behavior after that. So whether it'll be growling, the tail will go down, tucked between the leg, or if it's a dominant dog, it'll come over and hold above its back. You'll see the body stiffen, the eyes, the pupils will dilate. Of course, some show teeth, and then if any of those signs, the ears will go back. Forgot about the ears. The ears will go back and go forward. Sometimes it's just a very small, slight
A
movement,
titch.
and then the animal will trigger. So, but those are primarily the most fastest, we probably think, well, how the hell am I supposed to watch all these things at one time? That's when, like I said before, get to know your dog. Watch your
Yeah.
dog communicate in the environments to the stimuli around it with you, with other animals.
Yeah.
It
And then
knows.
Yeah.
Say
And then
that.
like in two, like as a pet parent, when you're out and about with your animal in public and there's other animals
Yes.
around, you have to be cognizant of another other dog behavior as well, especially when your animal is encountering them. Oh my god, he doesn't bite. He loves all other dogs. Okay, but does that dog love all other dogs? As you're watching his hackles come up and his tail straighten up and his
Yeah.
teeth start to bare, like
Thank you. I
I hate
missed
to
that one.
say,
Hackles. That's a good.
yeah.
I forgot that one. That's a good one.
Yeah, I like to say dogs are like. When I say dogs are like people, I don't mean they're like people, but like dogs are gonna have the dogs that they like, that they vibe with, just like we have people we like and we vibe with. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like mine, or like Alley Dog and Rascal, bro. They would vibe with each other, but may not like other animals. Exactly. So like people, I feel like there's this, I'm out and about with my dog's cool, but I'm not watching the behavior of other dogs around me to know if this dog that this person is out walking has issues,
Right.
whether they're friendly or not.
Well, and you notated a good example actually just happened to me recently. So, and this was, really quick, we'll talk on puppies for an example. Not many people know, and there is science factor behind this. And Ian Dunbar is actually one of the main guys for this study. You can find it in his website and his work, but dogs don't go through just one fear phase. They go through quite a few from the age of, when they first start opening their eyes and ears and doing all that, exploring the world until they're actually 3 years old. So, and it's not, a lot of people are like, oh, it's just until 1 years old and they're done. Well, no, they go through another one. That's usually when a scary episode happens to something that they will never forgive or forget. That's usually a bad experience, and that's usually when you get a massive behavior change. But so now that that's that, my story is I'm walking an almost a year old Run puppy down the lakefront, and this couple comes walking towards me with two pit bulls on the leash, and I saw them coming, so I switched my dog to the opposite side of from my left side to my right side to give them space, and so my dog didn't have any choice to go say hi, just stay next to me. Well, these dogs, as soon as they saw her, just immediately start pulling the owners to my dogs. I had to actually say something. Please do not let those dogs go and
Yeah.
make sure that you stay on this side of me. Shouldn't have to say that, but I did.
Mm-mm.
So my dog has been trained to leave it alone. But these dogs, as soon as they got close to us, start vocalizing massively, lunging for her, open mouth, showing teeth, doing all this extra nonsense, but really showing what their intentions are. Really don't know if they're what their intentions really were 100%,
Yeah.
but didn't look fun. But anyhow, I had to tell my dog to leave it so she didn't spin around because those dogs, she's never had dogs approach
Yeah.
her like that before. So
Yeah.
all it takes is that one time situation to now ruin my dog's confidence and create a whole mess. So, and she was in a fear phase, but luckily I was able to help her through that particular situation, even though me and the owners almost got into a
Now,
little
see, I'm actually going to touch
thing.
on that
But I
because, and I
decided to just
didn't think to
keep
talk
walking.
about this, but I've seen it
Yeah.
more and more of an
Yeah.
increase that because like I have a 20-pound terrier mix. If I see a dog that's double or triple pound weight difference, I'm going to move my dog off to the side. She's tiny, but she thinks she's not. But if I say she's not nice, they think I'm joking. But they don't listen. Are you seeing an intake of people not listening to other dog owners when they're out and about, of just like, my dog's fine, so your dog should be fine, or the complete opposite, they just don't? Because like it is so infuriating. Or if like I'm out
Oh,
training and I'm
absolutely.
like sit, stay, doing all of that, and they're bringing the dog, and I'm like, hey, I'm training my dog, can you please leave alone? And they get an attitude. I'm like, no, respect my wishes on my dog, and I'll respect your wishes on your dog. But then they want to be Karens, and I'm like, leave my dog alone.
Yes,
Like take your dog and go away.
right. Oh, right.
Yes.
No, I see it a lot, and sadly, right before, it's just increasing. So, when I started in this whole dog world, it was very important for the young
Yeah.
generation to learn how to ask people, may I interact with your dog? But see, back then, when we were told no, we said, okay, we'll just go do this, whatever. Nowadays, people cannot accept no, therefore they touch the dog anyway,
Yeah.
start a fight, or they do something, and that's actually where the bites come from. I said, no, you
Yeah.
touched my dog anyways, and you got bit. I'm here training. You ignored me. That's a lot of things that I saw when I was in animal control. But even to this day, unfortunately, when I'm out walking my dogs are the sweetest dogs in the world. But if somebody comes up to me I tell them, please don't pet them, they're working. They'll go through the whole where it's not a March service dog. And it's like, don't get me started on that. So it's just people don't know how to take no for an answer anymore. It's become a normalized thing. So as dog owners that are trying to do good for their dogs, trying to train their dogs and help their dogs through really important
Yeah.
times of like crappy behavior you don't want, those people ruin it. And that's usually where the dog bites come into play. So just keep
Oh yeah.
advocating for your animals. Be that Karen if you have to be. I mean,
Yeah,
seriously. I now carry a
absolutely.
walking stick,
Love
and
it.
it's for people and dogs. So I hate to say
For
that,
people
but
and dogs. I love that.
yeah.
Well, and like,
I mean, you have to because people like
yeah.
they don't listen. You know what I
And
mean?
my
And
dog
like
They
is
don't.
so
it
much more
takes, like you said,
reactive
that
when a
one
leash is
time
on
and it
her
screws your dog
and
forever.
we're out and
Excuse my
about
language.
versus like if we were in
Don't
an
bother
enclosed
me.
space, she'd be like, "Hey, dog," and then move about. But if she has a leash on her, she's like, "Whoa," she gets that like terrier like intensity, and I'm like, "No, no, 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 this is what we're trying not to do."
Oh
But
yeah.
Yeah,
people just don't get it, and it just makes me
yeah.
so mad. Where I'm like, I said no.
Mm-mm.
Right.
No, in fact, still means no.
Yeah,
And it's
yeah.
it's frustrating because yes.
And then, like, you have those unaware. I don't necessarily if they're unaware, they just don't care. Like you said, those people with those two dogs that were coming at yours and they started vocalizing. Is this a normal behavior? Not a normal,
Yeah.
but is this their normal behavior that they exhibit when they're out and about? And why are you not taking precautions for them to avoid an encounter with a dog that is paying them no mind?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like an example, like my baby Ducati. Okay, Ducati did well with all animals, all dogs, up until she had one horrific encounter. So, Ducati used to be in magazines and the newspaper with her costume contests, and she would she was so good with other animals. She would go to dog parties, all kind of stuff. You know what I mean? And she had a very negative encounter with a Great Dane at a costume contest in one of our big box pet stores. And the lady said, "Oh, my dog is fine. My dog is fine. You have a pit bull. Keep her away from my dog." Well, this dog got off his leash and attacked Ducati and a Great Dane. And since from that very moment, Ducati was like, F everybody. Even her own dogs and her own family, she was like, F everybody. I'm not playing with nobody. And from that point on, I had to, unless they were in her home, and there were negative encounters with our dogs in our pack or what have you, unless she was in her home, she could not be around any other animals. From that point on, she was done. She was done. And this woman knew her dog was a shit. And because, it was a costume contest, and she just was not aware of the situation, let go of the dog, and she grabbed a hold of mine. You know what I mean? Like, it's things like that I don't think people are aware that things like that can happen.
Right.
And I feel like it goes to those trigger points, those signs of aggression, the body language, and things like that.
I got
like,
really
that you're
lucky.
not-
My brother
you're
got
not
a dog in
cognizant
from
of.
Germany, and
Right.
I sat on the floor because he was a quote unquote house dog, right? And so like I sat on the floor, but like he came up right to my face and his whole posture changed and he went like that. And me and my brother read that instantly where I was like, don't make eye contact. He called him away. But like I was lucky at that point that someone else read the situation exactly the same time and knew that I was in trouble, that if I moved just a little bit and made just enough eye contact that dog was going to nail me. And it was just right here on the face, and I was like, not the face, not the face. Like, shoulder, arm, something, not the face. And I got lucky that he read that situation exactly the same time,
Right.
and I went like this so like he wouldn't get that eye contact, that trigger, because that's what he wanted. He wanted that, like, yep, I can get her. And my brother was like, nope, here. And the dog went right to him, and I was like, I was up and I was sitting away. And I was like, nope. I was like, I learned a lesson not to sit on the ground when I meet a new dog that
Good call.
just went through a very stressful situation, because all the other dogs that I had met had been fine, but not with this one. And I was like, I didn't read that one well at all.
Yeah, no, yeah.
It happens, and you go through, like, I have changed or grown throughout the years with how I even interact with client dogs, or how I would interact with, and I think this actually came from my experience from animal control. So if you've ever chased a dog that is willing to bite you, especially if you
Oof.
corner it, will pretend it's friendly and then will launch in the air for your face.
Oh, yeah.
So, You have to learn because when you thought the dog was a
Right.
specific way, and then all of a sudden it changes within less than 3 seconds, you're like, well, I misread that wrong, and I came pretty darn close to that. But it helped me be faster at reading body language, but also
Yep.
not trusting everything you saw. Just because a dog wags its tail don't mean it's happy.
Yeah.
So, and that was a good teacher of that.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I just
Yeah.
how I approach dogs nowadays is I don't. I love dogs. I do. Obviously, my life is dogs, but
Exactly.
I let them approach me. If they don't
Yep.
Yep.
want to be approached, don't approach them. That's
Don't
their
approach
first
them.
sign of no, don't come to me. They
Mm-hmm.
will come to you, but even then, if they're showing specific body signs, don't say, I can say hi now. No,
Yeah.
you don't do that still. So, and because of how I've chose to say hi to dogs now, my readings on them before I start working with them here at, my work is I won't even try to touch them. Be like, you know what, you're going to work your dog today, and this is why. Yes, almost every time I've read it right. That dog was a
Yep.
very short fuse trigger, very uncomfortable, stranger
Yeah.
danger. It just helps me evolve into helping these dogs get over that.
Yep.
And then the dog goes, oh, this person's not a bad person at all. I like this person now. So, because they might always have that, especially little dogs. We're going to catch it. I'm going to hold it. I'm going to hold it.
Yeah.
Oh,
Not a little dog. Not a little dog. Nope, because they'll come prancing in.
oh yeah.
Do, and you're like, oh my god, hi. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
I never
It's
no,
friendly.
trusted.
Yeah.
yeah, no. With like grade,
I never
10
trusted a
dental
client
disease. I know
that
that's not
said,
even on the
"Don't worry,
scale,
he's
but
friendly." And I was like, "Oh, we'll see. We're about to do things that are not his norm. Yeah, we're about to do things that are not his norm, and put a thermometer
Right.
in a
Those are
place
the
that
worst
he's never
words.
had it placed." So, no.
Right.
exactly. Yeah, I had that exact situation happen in an exam room with a cane corso about a year ago. I'm in the room. I've dealt with this dog before. He's been difficult, like to the point like he threw technicians in the wall, knocked pictures down off the other side of the wall or whatever. Well, I got to build a rapport with him, and we had, we would have one-on-one toenail trims. Famous last words. He stiffened up, and I'm like, oh, and his owner was like, it's okay, he won't bite you. Meanwhile, I'm bent over with toenail trimmers in my hand, and no later than him getting won't bite you out of his mouth, I had drool marks on the side of my face because he turned around to grab
God.
me. It's not a pleasant experience. So
Yeah.
that's always, oh, he won't bite, or he's super friendly. He's super friendly until we're doing something he doesn't like.
Right. Never
You
trust
know what I mean?
anybody when they say that for sure.
No.
You wouldn't trust
No.
somebody just, here's my car keys.
Nope.
Go ahead, take them. I don't think so.
No. People are like, oh, Amber's pretty cool. No, I'm not. I'm aggressive AF. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I've kind of gotten that way as I gotten older.
Yeah. But so yeah, I mean, I feel too that there's been more of a prevalence of like animals, like bite cases and things like that, of people getting attacked, kids getting bitten and things like that, because not necessarily because an animal's aggressive, because people aren't paying attention, people aren't
Right.
watching, people aren't, oh my god, I just brought my newborn baby home, and not understanding the animal's mentality when you introduce a brand like, I don't know, do you work on the pack mentality situation?
I do work on
Okay.
dog. Yeah.
Yeah, so you introduce a new member of the pack, you just shove him in there and let your dog shove his nose in the kid's face, and then we end up with a bite case.
Right.
Because you don't think about the fact that yes, that's your baby, that's your dog, that's your world, but that is still an animal at
Well,
the
and
end
also
of the day.
people think.
With
Yep.
a totally different thought
Sorry,
process.
I was gonna say, I was like,
It is. And I think,
I was gonna say that like some people think that if they spend
Sorry, go ahead.
X amount of money on training, they don't have to do anything else again because clearly their dogs are gonna remember that. No, they're not. Like they have to be reminded in just constant state of like, today we're going to practice this, tomorrow we're going to practice that, in a couple of days we're going to practice this. Like you have to constantly keep it fresh in their minds. It's the same like if I was good at placing catheters. I haven't placed one in 3 years. I can tell you right now I'm not going to hit it. You know, it's the same as a dog who hasn't healed in 3 years, and you expect him to all of a sudden magically heal. They're
Right.
not going to. And then you're going to get mad and upset, and then the dog's going to be like, what did I do wrong? I don't remember. And then, like, they also, yeah, they also
And you're
just
gonna
like,
give
well,
up, and
I
yeah,
spent all
he's
this
gonna be
money
a
on this trainer, and they didn't really help my
delinquent.
dog. They helped my dog for a little bit, but then you didn't do the follow through. And
Right.
Right. And I
Right.
see that
yeah,
and I get that all the time. And it's like, listen, it's a dog, it's an animal. If you want something you don't have to constantly train or keep up on, get a hamster or a fish. So, because, no matter how much money you put into training, if you're having aggression issues, you
yeah,
can bet you're going to put some money into a
yep,
really good dog trainer that's going to help you keep that dog alive. And I say that because, when it comes to the whole dangerous dog investigation thing, your dog doesn't have to bite to be deemed dangerous. It's the
Nope.
behavior it's exhibiting. It just has to elicit, aggressive behavior. So, oh my gosh, what is the words, Amber? There's there's special words that, your dog doesn't even have to chase you or do anything like that. Something
It
in a
like it,
menacing fashion,
yes,
something
like I
along
can't
those
remember the
lines.
words
Ah,
because I have too buried those things. Like
yep.
like malicious intent or some weird. I know there's terminology for it, but I can't. It's right here, and I just can't.
Yeah, I can't
I can't
remember
pull it
it.
out.
Right. So,
I
and
can't.
it's frustrating because, you've got to upkeep on that stuff. And if you're not willing to, unfortunately, you're either going to surrender the dog because you can't afford the fees, or your dog's going to
Mm-hmm.
bite again. Animal control's going to fight to
right,
deem it dangerous for destruction, and then it will be humanely euthanized.
right,
So, and it's not the dog's fault, it's always
right,
the humans that lets it down. So,
yes,
because all of that's preventable,
yeah.
but nobody wants to keep up on the training, that the trainers do put into it.
Sorry, a dog is deemed aggressive even without a
Mm-hmm.
bite. You know, like people think aggressive dog has bit somebody. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, no, it doesn't the dog does not have to bite somebody, right, in order to be deemed dangerous. They just have to have several accounts and proof.
Yep.
So if you get someone that's recording, and everybody's got their phones out nowadays, but even just they don't need that. If you have statements from, I think it's two
General
or
is
three
fine.
people, I'm gonna say that just because it's been a while. I should know this like the back of my hand, but this is
Yeah, and they can.
right. So,
Stuff changes.
you just get a couple of eyewitnesses. They're like, yeah, we're really terrified this dog's going to bust out of the yard one day.
Mm-hmm.
And they record that behavior, or, multiple people attest on that. And then animal control starts digging. They're investigators. They're going to find information if they have it.
Yeah.
And
Alley dog, you
they
are now
can be
deemed
deemed
dangerous
dangerous
because
on
you will
that.
run the fence line
Yeah. Yeah.
and bark at
So
people. Sorry, honey.
yeah. Right.
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 Yeah.
And it's frustrating because, some dogs use that as an exercise, but then
Yep.
again, when it comes down to the whole dog training thing, that's a behavior that's going to scare
Yeah.
somebody.
Yeah.
Tell your dog that'll do, come on in. Because if you get a specific breed that
Right.
does that, they're eventually going to go, okay, I can't take it anymore, I'm busting out.
Yeah.
So that behavior could be a forewarning sign,
Exactly. So
you know.
when we use the terminology dangerous dog, right? Because you were at one point in time, many moons ago,
Mm-hmm.
a dangerous dog investigator. People
Hmm.
have no idea that that's a thing because, like, when this new legislation changed, right? And I'm not expecting anybody to know what it is. I seen it on the Facebook. I clicked on it. I was like, we've been doing this, but nice to see that it's a
Right.
law. They don't understand that there are dangerous dog investigations that occur and that there are stipulations that have to be followed once that animal is deemed dangerous for the owner to get that dog back.
Hmm.
Right? So, can you
Yes.
explain to us just a little bit in your experience what goes into an investigation for a dangerous dog?
So let's go into the memories. So, well, usually on a dog bite, or a dangerous dog investigation, depending on the whole situation, the story, everything
Mhm.
is different. So there's a lot of variables to think about. But usually the dog's quarantined for a 10-day bite. If it is an actual bite that broke the skin at the facility, then once that begins, and the dog is deemed, all the evidence is brought together, pictures, all that other good stuff is taken to the county. Well, I skipped a step. The director of animal control usually starts the first process and will actually make the determination of whether or not the dog is dangerous or not. So, and if it stops there, then of course, then there is stipulations of the dangerous dog statute saying, the dog will have to have a muzzle if it goes off property. You have signs that you have to post to property. You have to have a special insurance in order to keep and maintain the for its whole life, not just for a month or two. And your homeowners association does have to know the dog, if you have gates and stuff on your property, all of the any gate, any door has to have the signs.
Okay.
And then, of course, the gates have to be padlocked so the dog can't get out if it's out. But we also had to have dogs on a leash at all times. You can't be off leash. You can't be running around with a muzzle on it, off leash, stuff like that. And of course, then there is a fee that you have to pay. It's $1,000 to get started, and then I think it's $500 a year, unless they've changed that, to maintain a dangerous dog in that county. And this is a state law too, it's not a county, just per county. But they have to, for the lifetime of the dog, pay for that. And anytime they don't, they will get issued.
So then it's like 500 on top of the $500
citation until it's paid.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So I mean, some places are lenient. They'll say, if you pay this, we'll waive it. I mean, that's not everywhere though. That's definitely not everywhere. And things change all the time. So, but from my memory, that's what we would do. Now, if they fought the first stage of the process and they fought the first determination by the director, then you would go to the county manager. So then everybody would have, sorry, I have animals all over my table. I don't like my cats on my table. So you would do a dangerous dog, it would be a hearing essentially with the county manager, and then whoever else, the owner would be present, the investigating officer, the animal control director, and then, sometimes lawyers and stuff like that would be there. So then you go through the whole thing again, and then the county manager, that for some reason it doesn't feel right, is the one that makes the final determination. If they say no, then you would go to an actual court so there's a third level higher to where it would be to determine an actual court of law.
So this is a serious process.
Yes, very serious.
It is a legal process that this goes through, and I don't think that people understand that this is something that actually takes place, especially with an animal that's had multiple horrific bites. Even if it doesn't have to be horrific, like you said, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And let's not forget about the bling, the tag that they have to wear.
The tag. Sorry, tags.
Massive tags that says "dangerous dog,"
and it has to be on them all the time. Well, when it's primarily off property. I mean, there are stipulations that do come in from dangerous dog investigations, but that's all like director based. I don't think stipulations are a must do. That's just because of the director's choice, essentially.
So we have, the dangerous dog investigations and things like that. So now on our side, and I've encountered this a couple of times, and Joyce, I don't know if you have, and you could speak to this, because I'm sure you have, and we've worked together in the same facility.
I don't think I've...
To where
I got bit by
a dog, but
I got bit by one dog in my 16 years, and I did not report the dog because, in my opinion, he just came out of surgery and was groggy, and he just latched onto my fingers. But thank God he was a Mastiff, so his teeth were little in the front, and he had gotten it in the front, and I just had to pull it out. But I had to go to the doctor and things like that, but I didn't report him.
Yeah. Yeah, and and I've gotten bit several times and I haven't reported, but at the same time, if a dog comes into a facility and he is, I'm just going to use the word, unpleasant, and bites a technician, I feel that is something that should be a mandatory report. You know what I mean? Or I've been bitten by a cat before during an exam, and this cat had 107-degree fever, was neurologic, was stray, and had no vaccine history.
The cat could be rabid, and we don't know beginning stages of rabies, and we don't know.
Right.
I don't know.
But I don't know. We might have different views on this one.
Yeah, and it's
hard.
Yeah.
Well, it's definitely a hard one.
It is too, and when you have your practice owners or
it's
have
not so
your
much
managers
scare the
and
clients.
things like
I think it's more.
Oh my God, I'm not reporting this because
it was
it's
a
scare my clients
repeatable
away.
thing. Like they came in without a muzzle on, without medications on board. Like they refused that, and that dog continued to try to bite and did bite. That's different. I would agree to pressing on that one. But if it was just like a one up and they're like, ha, but then the owner was like, I will come
No,
in with
I
a
agree
muzzle,
with
I
that.
will do this, I will do that,
Yeah,
trazodone, whatever, cool, not going to report you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. I've seen
Yeah.
some that have been kind of bad, and still it was no, we're not reporting that because that could potentially negatively impact the business. You know what I mean? But anyway, I digress on that situation.
Well, I ran into
Um,
that a lot on the in the road. They didn't groomers, vets. I mean, shoot, I worked at one vet's office many moons ago, and I got in trouble for not reporting a bite that I took for another human, so they didn't get a face bite. But I didn't say anything about this bite, but I ended up getting
yeah,
told on because my arm swelled up, got nasty and stuff like that.
yeah,
So, but he told me, he's like, we as a practice are mandated. We want you guys to report bites, but he couldn't tell me it was a state law. Now, the only
yeah.
people mandated to report dog bites are hospitals.
Our hospitals, that's a mandated report, and that's what I try to explain to people. When somebody goes through, we may not have made that report on that bite case, but that person who has went to the emergency room, who's gotten treatment, they are mandated to report to the
Wait,
health
the
department.
victims or the actual hospital?
The hospital, when you go into the
Yes, yeah.
hospital with a dog bite, they are mandated to report that
And
to
then-
the health department. It's
Yeah.
not
Yes.
necessarily us as a practice that does that. Our employee
Right.
went to seek care, and that was reported to the health department.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I think there's a very fine line / gray area / WTF situation
It always was.
when you
It
when you
always was.
encounter those things.
No, because
So yeah, can you? I don't know, Joyce. Do you have any questions?
I mean, I wanted to notate on something that y'all brought up earlier. We were
Yeah.
talking about, just people not knowing. I really believe that, there's not enough education out there like there used to be. Like, before all this technology, social media really blooms. Like,
yes.
people would watch shows like Steve Irwin and stuff like that, and actually learn about animals. But, so there's really no education, not even like with dangerous dog investigations. Before I left, that was actually a part of my position, was a safety and education officer, and was to actually teach about how to prevent dangerous dog, investigations from happening, or dog bites, period. Dog bites, cat bites, there's not enough of that out there. There really
Right
isn't.
there, right
There's
there.
not enough anymore of people truly caring to learn about the
It's
animals that they
effort.
have in their care.
It's a lot of
Does it
effort
because they
with a
don't want
dog
to, or if
to
they
train
don't,
and get them to be a model
Is it-
citizen.
right,
Like,
they don't
because it
believe
takes effort and money if they have a dog that lies in the prey drive and things like that. They're like, oh, he's fine, just put him in the cage until you leave, or I can't work with this dog, I can't do this, it's fine, he can live outside, or so on and so forth, and it could be
Right.
somebody else's problem then. But like, there's not a lot of education. Like, people you either love Cesar Millan or you hate Cesar Millan, right? Everybody has their own techniques, but the one thing I do applaud him on
Right,
is he
right.
demonstrates what the dogs are showing at that time to the owners that just do not see it. Like, he makes himself go into like a body language,
Right.
like he morphs into it. Like, I'm like, yes, that's what they do. It's just that subtle shift, and I'm like, I assumed everybody could read an animal, and then I was grossly mistaken that they can't, when I entered the vet world, because, I was around animals growing up so much, and I'm just like, you just have to watch.
Right.
And then you just start picking up, but there's no programs out there really that will do anything
Yes.
to it. And I wish we could do better on doing that, but I think the first step is acknowledging that you can't read your dog as well as you thought you did. Like, that's step one. As much as
Right.
yes.
Yes. And then exercise, that's the next
Yes.
thing is, get the dog out, exercise the dog. If you can't take it out in public, buy a treadmill then. Now, do this
Yes.
lightly, don't kill your dog on a treadmill. But, there's things you can do to try and get the energy out. And which
Channel
usually
that
will
somewhere
dissipate, a lot of those behaviors because it's going
Yeah.
somewhere. The energy is going somewhere. And if you're like, okay, it's cool, but it's not enough, then find a dog sport. Find something to get into. It's fun. It is. It's a lot funner than staring at your phone all day.
Yeah. It's better for your health,
You'll
too.
see You'll see night
Yes.
and day, not just between, your dog's behaviors, but your relationship between you and your dog. And
That
that's what how
human
my training
animal
is.
bond.
It's all
Yep.
about that bond. Because if they sit there and they hold that middle finger up to you, there's no
But no,
relationship. You say
yeah, I
come, he
agree.
says no.
Exercise is huge.
There's no relationship there.
But no, exercise is huge
So
in
I feel
dogs.
attacked.
Like my dog
yeah.
is 10 years old and I still have to run her multiple times a week for me to be able to work with her because she has to get that exercise out. And she's 10. She doesn't know it. Like
Aw.
it's huge. Exercise is huge.
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely understandable. Yep,
Yes.
Yes.
yep. Channeling that energy into something else, that prey drive into something else, that
Gets
hyperactivity.
those
Like, yeah, I totally get it. Even as a human being, I need to do that for myself. You know what I mean? But
Just so look at your dog breed. What was your dog bred
yeah.
and designed to do?
Yep.
Was it
exactly.
showing those behaviors? Cool, go do it.
Yeah,
You know?
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, thank
So,
you. Yeah,
no,
thank you so
I
much,
think we got
Leslie, for
some
coming
pretty good insight,
on,
and some pretty good
chit chatting with us on a
direction
Sunday
and
night.
advice, Leslie. Thank you.
Oh,
Thank you
you're
very much
welcome.
for
This
that.
was fun.
Yeah,
No
yeah, because
problem.
I'm not very big on. I take trainers with a grain of salt. Like either they know what they're doing, they have
Yeah.
good technique, they have good philosophies and things like that, or they don't. So I
Hmm.
have watched Leslie and her grandmother. I mean, for what 20 years? I
60s.
knew your grandma before I knew you.
Yeah,
Wow.
and
Working
she
at the
just
clinic.
finally retired at six. She was doing this for 62 or 63 years,
Yeah,
a dog trainer
and
professionally.
the methods and the philosophies and the thought processes and things like that that her and her grandmother exhibit, I've always had the utmost respect for. I just want to relay that to you because I've
Well,
never
thank you.
seen you mishandle something in training, and like even with things that I had to do in the shelter to have your advice and your input on some of the patients that I had to deal with that were not so nice. You know what I mean?
Right.
So like you've saved my butt numerous times in terms of that. Dealt with some stuff together. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh.
We didn't even get into the whole cases thing.
No, no, that'll be
Yeah.
next though. So
Yep.
some things that I would like to. I've talked to Joyce about that we should shed some light on some of the things that we've worked on together. But I do think that this was an important conversation and discussion today, especially for those followers
Nope.
that aren't necessarily veterinary medical professionals or you don't have to be a veterinary medical professional or trainers or who are knowledgeable about dog behavior, about certain things to watch out for, to be cognizant at all times,
Yeah.
whether your dog is
Yep.
an
Yep.
upstanding citizen or not, because that dog that your dog encounters may not be.
Right.
So I think it's important to have that awareness. You know what I
Yes.
mean? And I think Leslie,
Yeah,
that
thank you
you
so
brought
much,
a lot
Leslie. I
of
really
good advice and
appreciate it.
tips and tricks to the table today, and I do sincerely
Good. Thank
appreciate you
you.
for that. Yeah.
No problem.
Hmm.
This was fun. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. We would love to have you back to have a
And
quality chat.
And that is something I
Oh,
definitely want to
boy.
shed light on is people have a
Yeah,
differing opinions.
yeah. So
And when they don't have the background or have seen it right in their faces. And I'm like, you don't know what a
Yes.
cruelty case
Neglect
is. Like,
and
you don't know what that involves when they just think this. Yeah. But yeah, that's definitely something I want to touch base into for sure.
yeah,
Right.
yeah, absolutely.
Definitely.
We would love to have you back. Thank you for joining us today.
No problem.
We appreciate you. Again, guys, this
Yep.
is just our thoughts, opinions, things like that based on our experiences. This is not meant to shed a negative light on anybody's interactions, training methods, techniques, things like that. This was just a conversation about things that we felt needed to be addressed or,
Yes.
or talked about, and kind of give people different perspectives on things. So we do thank you for joining us and listening. And if you guys have, any inputs, any comments, anything like that,
But yeah, until
nice
next week,
ones.
guys, we'll be back with another
Fine
one.
print.
Bye. It will be stopping.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to hurry up and stop
Hi.
it before the thing went away. Now I don't hear nobody.
It's not stopping.
Oh, for fuck's sake. Just tell me, why is it still I did stop it! The thing is I hit stop, and then it, kicked me out.
Well, just hashtag, we're gonna have a blooper. It's still.
For fuck's sake, I don't... Okay, hold on. Stop!